tell us anything about the type of missions you flew? Did you fly any missions that were pre-planned strikes, even without being fired upon?
No, sir. The only missions we flew were the standard reconnaissance escort missions, and there was absolutely nothing abnormal.
You were Captain Ritchie. Could you equate your discipline as a...
No, sir. The MiG-21 and the F-4 are comparable airplanes. The MiG-21 is smaller, being about half the size of the F-4. It leaves little or no smoke trail, therefore hard to see. It's about the same speed. Acceleration is not quite as good as the F-4, and the weapon system is not quite as good. The F-4, on the other hand, is a larger aircraft. It leaves a big smoke trail, easy to see, does not have quite the turn capability of the MiG. However, it enjoys a slight acceleration and speed advantage, particularly at low altitude, and we do have a better armament system. And your question about the pilots, they have some very good pilots and some excellent pilots. And I would say in most cases they present a great deal of challenge to us. Overall, I feel that American pilots are better.
I go up there, when we fly up there, we have an air of confidence in ourselves, but it is not a sense of overconfidence that we can do no wrong. In other words, when we get in an engagement, we don't necessarily know that we're going to come out best. We do hold these guys in respect because they have some, just like we do, they have some good pilots and some that are just average, just like the U.S. does.
Did you take any hits? Were you ever ordered to say that you'd been shot at when you hadn't been shot at?
No, sir.
No, sir.
You never heard any talk about it either?
Absolutely none. In fact, the whole thing was very surprising to us.
Did you ever attack anything on the ground, or were you strictly a defensive war you were fighting, or did you ever attack, say, ground targets or, well, anything on the ground, moving targets, convoys, that sort of thing?
Well, sir, as I mentioned, we're in the air-to-air role, and our job is to support the strike force. If we can deter the MiGs from attacking the strike force, then we've done our job.
But you didn't do anything else?
That's correct.
I mean, strictly limited to that?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever fly any of the, what we call the wild weasel missions? Was that 105?
That's strictly a 105 type mission.
What did you get the MiGs with? Missiles or guns or what?
We, all with missiles, both Chuck and myself.
Say again?
All with
All with
missiles.
missiles.
All missiles, yes, sir.
How are people reacting? I'm sure everyone around here is very friendly, but around the country.
We've had excellent reception. I think the vast majority of the people have received us quite well. We've been very pleased.
Any surprises?
No, not yet anyway. I think the people have looked at us with respect, or at least with the fact that we were doing the job we were sent over there to do.
Have you been on a tour?
No, sir,
No,
we're not
sir.
on a tour. We were invited guests of the American Fighter Aces reunion in the Air Force Association, and that's the only reason we're here.
You said you probably won't go back. Have you asked to go back, or is this a policy that you get X number, you don't get any more? Or what?
No, sir. We will be sent back, but probably in just staff type of work. We probably will not be flying.
What we're doing, we're going back to complete our normal tour. Chuck has a month. I have about a month and a half. And by the time we get back, there really won't be any need for us to fly anymore, because time we get recurrent again in the airplane, it would be time to quit. So we're going to go back and just do a little staff work that we need to do, and then we'll be up for our next assignment.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, we'll both be going to Nellis You want to elaborate on that anymore?
All right, we're going to the Fighter Weapons School at Nellis, which is, we feel, the finest graduate fighter pilot school in the world, fighter crew school. It's a graduate type school for fighter crews.
You going to teach or what?
Well, I taught at Nellis before I went this time. Chuck is going to go through the school and be an instructor. And I will probably work in the TAC Fighter Weapons Center in the role of tactics and development of new armament and new tactics and so forth.
In talking to the pilots around here, have you discussed tactics with them, what you're doing now compared to what was done in the Korean War and World War II? Have they changed that much?
Well, there's some things that have changed. But most of the basics obviously have not changed. There are many things that are basic to the business and have not changed. However, the equipment is much more sophisticated, much more specialized. Of course, we're operating at higher speeds, and the defensive environment, as you know, is the most sophisticated in the history of warfare. Therefore, these things require certainly an adjustment in tactics. But again, there's some basic principles that have remained the same since the very beginning.
The F-4, as you know, I'm sure, is a two-man airplane. Part of that, it takes a lot of teamwork. It's a teamwork on the part of Steve and I flying together. It's also, as Steve said, it's a very sophisticated airplane, and it takes a lot of teamwork for the guys.
Sir, we really worked...
Could you see a target? That's what I was wondering. Could you see the target of the plane you were protecting?
Yes, sir.
What about this bombing of dikes and all that sort of thing?
How restrictive are your orders and how complicated are they? Do you have any trouble understanding what you can and can't do?
No, sir. We don't have trouble. The only restrictions that we have in that regard are to the actual targets. We would prefer to hit more targets than we're allowed to hit. But that's the only restriction, and it's there's nothing that's hard to understand about it.
You mean you can see a lot of inviting targets down there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yes, it would. But again, we're limited to hitting targets which are directly associated with the flow of supplies south.